Hello everyone, welcome to Glitch Gaming Reviews. Today I'm going to be looking at a demo of a game still in development called Void Tyrant Eyes of Kronos. It's a really fun game that I think you'll like. I'll give some background of the game, talk about some game mechanics, and show you some gameplay of my demo playthrough. Void Tyrant Eyes of Kronos is a roguelike deck building game where you choose a hero, travel to different worlds, battle strange enemies, gather loot, and ultimately fight big bosses who are more than a match for you. It is being developed by Quite Fresh Games and published by Armor Game Studios. It's still in development, but the demo is available to play on Steam. The basic mechanics of the game start with the dealer deck. It's a deck comprised of cards numbered 1 through 6, and you take it in turns, drawing cards, you along with your opponent. It's sort of like a blackjack-esque type game where you want to draw cards up to a certain point without going over 12, at least in the demo character that I played. When you get to a point you're comfortable with, you can stop dealing cards, stand, and the difference between however many cards however many your points are compared to your enemy's points are, that tells you how many attacks there are. If you have the higher number of points than your opponent, then you have a number of attacks based on the difference. The actual damage done is based on your character stats and things like that, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And so you keep on going like this back and forth. Your enemy does have a limit to where they will stop. Once they reach a certain level in their range, they will automatically stop. So just like in blackjack, a dealer will stop after, must stand if he's 17 or higher. Once the enemy reaches their limit, then they'll have to stand and be forced to stop at that limit. You obviously don't have that limit, but again, the risk is if you go too far and bust over, then the enemy gets that much damage on you. One of the aspects of this that I like a lot is it reminds me, well, not just of blackjack, which is a fun game in itself, but also it reminds me of the style of card play from the game Pazak from Star Wars, the Knights of the Old Republic. It was a fun little mini game in the game that I spent time just playing that most of the game whenever I could. And if anyone is in the development of an actual Pazak game, I will be playing that nonstop as well. Other aspects of the game that you have, besides just the dealer cards, are your own hand cards. So this is the deck building aspect. Over time, you'll get a bunch of cards that you can play from your hand. They do cost mana, which we'll get to in a little bit, but they each have different abilities and different equipment stats and things like that. So there's that aspect as well. You can play cards from your hand at any time as long as you still haven't stood, or if you haven't gone over. If you do actually count up to your full meter and you don't go over, that gives you a critical success. And so the last hit in your critical success is a critical hit. A lot of the cards in your hand that you can play have different components, so they can be cards that deal more damage, they can be cards that affect the count in your total pool, and they can also be defensive cards as well. Some of them will make your opponent's cards reset, or make it to where the opponent has to double up whenever they whatever number that they draw next. So there's different offensive and defensive cards and support cards as well that you can build into your deck. Each time you beat a character, you end up with some extra money and loot that you gain along the way, and some experience. When you level up, you get to do a whole bunch of things for your character, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. The enemy can also play cards themselves. Enemies have their own decks, which you can actually look at prior to fighting, and they'll oftentimes play them, and that's sort of the hardest part of the game, is trying to figure out how to counter whatever they might be playing. They can also get critical hits as well. That's always painful too. So this is the dungeon aspect, where you want to make sure that you try to find good equipment as well, because no matter how much you try, you're still going to have to fight and take hits. Once you defeat the main enemies in the beginning of the demo, you get brought to the main town, Sacred Town, and you meet the mayor, and he tells you about the Eyes of Kronos that are missing, and the fact that without them back, bad things will happen. So your mission is to go out there and find them. So you start by picking a character. In the demo playthrough, you get to choose a knight. It's the only playable character in the demo, and you get to see a bunch of different stats. You can see the basic starting hand that your deck is made from. You can look at all the different cards in there as well, both offensive and defensive. You get the different stats, so the attack damage, meaning how many damage he'll do per hit, magic and ranged, which is things I don't think are in the game just yet, the health and energy pool, and also the different class perks. These are different things that your character gets as just random perks, and they are random depending on the character. Once you leave, you get to see the map where you're supposed to go, and eventually the Chaos Pyramid at the end. Each world, there's a Eye of Kronos there that you're going to have to go and recapture. The two playable worlds that the demo has are these two planets, a desert planet and a sort of valley planet. On my first character's playthrough, we went ahead and tried the valley planet first. You can see the cards that you get to start with at the beginning. It's the first 4 that are drawn from your hand, and you have the option at the beginning of each round to discard a card if you want, for no mana cost. If you want to discard more cards afterwards, that will cost energy points as well. Once you discard a card, you get a card back, so you basically cycle through your deck at the cost of energy. But obviously, you don't have to, you can save them as well. Once you defeat a character, you have a choice of where you want to go. If you go to the left and right, they could be other enemies, they could be loot spots, it could be a whole bunch of different things. So this is the adventuring part. You never know what you're going to see when you go out there. As I was going through, I found a bunch of different enemies along the way. Some got more and more powerful as I moved through. But everyone seemed to have their own unique quirks. It's fun to look at the different decks that the enemy has and to kind of see what challenging things they might bring. When you level up, your damage and health go up automatically, and you get a choice of either increasing 1 or 2 stats, either damage or health or maybe energy. There's a whole bunch of different things you can choose. You also get a new card to add to your deck, 1 of 2 choices, and you can get a new perk as well. These perks I find to be really useful and a nice little bonus to your character. As you start going further in the planet, you do start fighting more and more stronger foes, and if you're not prepared, or if you are
poor playing it, like I was, you might end up with a bad fate. When you die and your character dies, you get a recap of your trek along this path, how much you were able to bring in eventually, and then you're returned into this town square. When you get back to the town square, you can upgrade things with whatever money you have. Maybe you can buy new starting gear, which I eventually bought some new boots. And then you can go ahead and, well, start again. Your character is gone though, so you have to get a new one. There are classes that you can purchase as well. Not in the demo, but there were 2 classes I got to see, the duelist class and the assassin class. But pretty interesting. When you choose a new character, the stats are and perks are all new and randomized, and so you get sent out again. This time I was going to be a little bit more careful. I went to the desert plant this time to see the different types of enemies and the different types of things, sights along the way, I guess. One of the things I found I was doing on my first character's playthrough was I was not using my hand cards very much. I was trying to save them because I was afraid of not getting enough energy to be able to play them the next time. And then I realized, well, that's silly, because if you don't play them, then you're not going to win. Each hit you do, returns some energy back to you, so as long as you're winning and hitting, you'll get the energy back. And that's something I learned on my second playthrough. I also took the defensive strategy of, let's try more health this time. I do like the theming of the characters in the different realms. You might have similar crossover type enemies, but they are all themed to the planet they're on, which I thought was really nice. I like the art style for the game. And if you haven't noticed already, the soundtrack is a very catchy soundtrack. I found myself humming it even after playing the game. One of the things I found along the way were these little pit stops, these shrines, and this is a place where you can either remove a card from your hand or from your deck if you don't like a card or if it's no good, or you can duplicate a card if you do like it. From my days playing Pazak, I know the importance of being able to shift by 1, so I made sure to duplicate that +1 card. Again, Pazak coming back into play. It's all I can think about whenever I play this is the similarities to Pazak. So eventually I ran into this guy. This is the big boss at the end, Pharisith. And I found that I needed to be careful with him. He has a bunch of different cards, and boy does he like to use them. But I was making sure I was using my cards this time, and not just holding back. And I also liked the appropriate theming here that he is a mummy here, so therefore the bleed damage that I was hoping to use did not to not actually affect him, because bleed's not going to really affect him on me, is he? I find using the shifting cards to try and get to the maximum 12 and getting those critical hits was kind of the biggest use of those cards, was to help get me that win. And bam, the last few hits. The big treasure chest at the end, we get his ceremonial boots, the ones he was using against me. Definitely a better pair of boots than I had, so nice equipment to take with me. And we found one of the chaos keys. So these are one of the things we need. We need to get one of these from each planet, and so that's the one from the desert planet. So once we're done with this planet, we go and head off to the next. But after completing one of the planets, that is the end of the demo. So you can go back and play it again, try to win out the other planet, but that's the general gameplay for what it's like. This has been our playthrough of Void Tyrant. You can look at it on Steam. It's definitely already on my wish list, as you can see. And I will be looking for this when it comes out. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a fun game. It's like some of the games I like to play before, Dicey Dungeons and Play the Spire and things like that. So yeah, check it out. It's a really fun game. Thanks for watching, everyone. GG's.